Scouts and evaluators on Mets' revamped farm system, including what's keeping them from being in the top 10. This is an article from SNY.TV. GM Billy Eppler loaded up on position players at the trade deadline. This is written by John Harper. 3 weeks after the trade deadline, the consensus among town evaluators is that the Mets GM, Billy Eppler, did well in bringing back top prospects that have added needed depth, though not necessarily potential star quality to the farm system. But the praise comes with a caveat. For the farm system to provide a base for sustained success in the coming years, which is owner Steve Cohen's stated goal, Mets front office is going to have to get creative in taking a surplus of position players and turning it into some quality pitching. As it is, the infusion of talent has only steadied a system, at least in the eyes of those who do the rankings, that in recent years has lost blue chip prospects via trades and big league promotions. MLB Pipeline and Baseball America recently did their mid-season re-rankings of farm systems, slotting the Mets at number 11 and number 14 respectively, the same as preseason for MLB Pipeline, and 9 spots lower for Baseball America. The only ranking that included Kodai Senga as a prospect. And Keith thought the former Toronto Blue Jays front office executive who ranks players and systems for the Athletic had the Mets at number 15 going into the season, told me the Mets are still below the median after their recent trades. The reason is obvious in looking at how heavily the top end of the system tilts toward position players. They'd be top 10 system if they had better pitching, said Jim Callis, one of the MLB's Pipeline's analysts. To which a rivals team executive added, if the Mets are going to contend in the next couple of years, they're going to have to find a way to acquire pitching to supplement what's in their system. That was the one criticism of Eppler's deadline deals. He didn't bring back any top pitching prospects. But evaluators don't knock him for it, saying it's smart to get the best value regardless of need, which seems to be what the Mets GM did in acquiring position player prospects, most notably infielder Luis Angel Acuna from the Rangers, for Max Scherzer, and outfielders Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford from the Astros for Justin Verlander. Quote, I think what the Mets did was smart, said Callis. You would have preferred to get some pitching, but if you try to enforce it, you end up making lesser trades, and Acuna and Gilbert are top 100 prospects. And some of the Astros people think Clifford is a better prospect than Gilbert. So if you put Clifford in there too, I know from ranking systems that when you get 2 or 3 top 100 prospects, that can have a huge impact. Others temper such enthusiasm optimism to some extent. Law says Gilbert can really play center field, so he'll definitely be a big league, but he's probably a lower ceiling guy overall. As for Acuna, Law says he should be a good big leaguer for a long time, but I don't think he's a star. He's not Ronald. Whatever the ceilings of the new acquisition, the depth could be especially valuable considering the Mets already have other highly talented position players, player prospects, such as Ronnie Mauricio, Jet Williams, Kevin Parada, and 2023 first-round pick Colin Houck, a high school shortstop that Callis called a steal, and number 32 for the Mets. Callis said Houck slipped in the draft because more good college hitters were available than usual, stemming from that 5th-round draft in the COVID year of 2020, which forced more high school players than usual to play in college, and many teams seized on that opportunity. In any case, add those prospects to rookies Francisco Alvarez, Brett Baty, who eventually hit, said Law, speaking to Baty's recent demotion to AAA, and Mark Vientos, and the Mets have plenty of flexibility to trade for pitching at some point. It's hard to do what the Orioles did, said Law, referring to Baltimore's rise to prominence this season with a rebuild of almost entirely position players. I'm fine with a system that's skewed toward position players, but at some point you need some pitching. You need to at least produce your own number 4 and 5 starters, as well as your own bulk guys. The Mets are fine there, but they don't have any high-end pitching. Now, Mauricio turns out to be a star, and Jet Williams and Colin Houck turn out to be stars, along with the young guys they have in the big leagues, then it's going to be fine. All of their prospects don't have to play for them for their acquisition to be considered a success. I don't think the next Jacob deGrom is in their system. So maybe they go trade for Mitch Keller in the offseason. A lot of people in the game seem to think that the Pirates will trade him 2 years ahead of free agency. So you go get him, and if you like him, you sign him long term. That type of creativity essentially could enhance the impact of Eppler's deadline deals. And the key there is obviously making the right call on who to trade and who not to trade. With that in mind, It's worth noting that Law in particular thinks Mauricio ought to be in the big leagues at this point to find out if he will eventually overcome his plate discipline issues and make good on his potential as an impact hitter. Quote, I don't do comps very often, but when I watch Mauricio, I can't help but think he could be Alfonso Soriano. He has enough bat speed, he's enough of a bad ball hitter, and he has the same wiry strength, the same super quick wrists. Soriano surprised a lot of people by having a really good career, and it makes me look at Mauricio this way, Law said. It's possible his lack of plate discipline will catch up with him, but why hasn't he been called up? It's okay if he struggles. At this point, he's not going to get any better in AAA, and you can't protect him forever. If he comes up and gets exposed, then it's on him to make the adjustment, with help from the coaching staff. If he can't make the adjustment, then you know. A scout I spoke to, according to John Harper, agrees about Mauricio. If they're thinking about this, he has more value as a trade piece before he plays in the big leagues. I don't buy it, said the scout. Everybody has the same reports on him. The concerns about chasing out of the strike zone. Mauricio at the point where the only way that creates more value is calling him up and hoping he has the athleticism and enough strike zone awareness to show he can hit big league pitching. If so, they have to decide if he's worth more playing another position other than his natural shortstop or as a trade piece for pitching. Even if they do make a trade or two, the Mets are still going to have to rely on their pitching prospects to some extent. And the good news is that after graduating very few pitchers from their own system the last few years, at least they have a group of them getting close to being Major League ready, even if it's mostly regarded as low-ceiling talent. Quote, my concern is they have a lot of guys who don't have a true plus pitch, said Callis. They have some command guys who project as mid to back of the rotation starters or maybe relievers. I would say Billy Tidwell is the possible exception. He's their hope. He would have been a first-round pick if he hadn't had shoulder problems his final year at Tennessee. He throws high velocity with a good slider. The Mets did well getting him in the second round in 2022, but he just got promoted to Double-A, so he needs time. So far, Tidwell, a 6'4" right-hander, has struggled since the promotion to the Binghamton, posting a 6.46 ERA and 3 starts, giving up 16 hits and 8 walks in 15 innings with 14 strikeouts. The prospect who may be closest to the majors is 6'5" right-hander Mike Vasil, who recently took a no-hitter in the 9th inning of a AAA start, but otherwise has largely struggled in 10 starts at Syracuse after having success at Double-A this season. In Double-A, he commanded 3 or 4 pitches well and showed a feel for pitching, a scout said. In Triple-A, he shot away from contact a little more and pitched defensively. Eventually, he should be a number 4 starter, maybe a 3 if he shows some more growth. Evaluators said this very much the same thing about the Mets' other top pitching prospects, from Christian Scott to Dom Hamill to Justin Jarvis, the right-hander acquired from the Brewers from Mark Canha at the trade deadline. Meanwhile, the prospect who has had a breakthrough this season is 6'9" right-hander Tyler Stewart, who pitched to a 1.55 ERA at High A Brooklyn, but hasn't had nearly the same success in 6 starts in Double-A. Quote, he's used his slider a lot in High A, but I don't know if he has a true plus pitch. Until you get to Double-A, you just don't get a good feel for how pitcher stuff plays. If there is a wild card among the top prospects, evaluators agree it's likely 6'3" right-hander Brandon Sprout. The Mets' second-round draft pick this year out of the University of Florida, the same pitcher declined to sign with them as their third-round pick in 22. Quote, if you get him on the right day, he looks like a top 10 pick, said Law. I saw him one day at Florida when he was unbelievable. He was up to 99 miles per hour. He threw a 4-hitter in 2 hours. Walked 1 hitter, but he's just not consistent with his command or even his control. He's always been able to overpower guys rather than locating and changing speeds. So he might be a guy who has to realize at some point he needs a new plan if he's going to be more consistent. To which Cal adds, if he can find consistency, and that's a big if, he can be a guy who can pitch toward the front of the rotation. So there you have it. I look at many of the Mets' top prospects from the point of view of evaluators and scouts. To sum it up, the Mets have a brighter future after their trade deadline deals, but how much brighter probably depends on what the front office does in the coming offseason and beyond. Can Billy Epler and whomever Cohen hires as president of baseball operations spin a surplus of position players into quality major league pitching That would make the 2023 sell-off memorable indeed.